Constipated or trying to push one out or like a little about something? Like
No, I just think his energy level is like, I don't know. Like this morning he got onto my bed and he was meowing at me really loud. I was like, what is your deal? You hungry? Fine. Okay, let's make this happen. Put his wet food down and I was like going about making coffee and I sat and then he came up and cuddled with me and I was like, oh, you've been fed. Now you'll cuddle with me. And then he got up to go eat and I realized he hadn't touched his food. He just wanted to cuddle.
Oh, look at him go!
oh my God, look at that little butthole. Oh, he's so cute.
Welcome to Sauce and Austin, a Podlander Drunkcast podcast. I hit the button at some point shortly before Julie started talking about whether or not Jasper needed to squeeze one out. The question I was going to ask, I said like, hey, before I hit the button, I have a question, but I'm just going to make it part of the thing now. So now I'm taking the choice away from you, Janine, and if it is wrong, then we'll just lose the content about the cat squeezing out the turd, which will be too bad, but it'll be fine. Are we still sauced in Austin? We've got a couple of episodes left that haven't hit Libsyn yet. 2 episodes to go up on Libsyn.
Yeah.
So this one won't be on Libsyn for 3 weeks.
I think we're sick burn now.
Then welcome to Sick Burn Jane, a Podlander Drunkcast podcast, formerly known as Sauced in Austin, but we will always be Sauced in Austin in our hearts. I'm Allison.
I'm Julie.
That's Janine.
Hi.
Y'all, we hemmed and hawed over new and different title so many times. For a while, it was Men in Ponds. Don't worry, it'll still be on a t-shirt. For a while, we were talking about Way Harsh Jane. That was Way Harsh Jane. But then we were worried that might sound too much like a Clueless podcast rather than an Austin adaptation podcast. And then we settled on just leaning into what we do, which is saying stupid shit over and over and over again until people decide it's funny. So, sick burn, Jane! That's a really sick burn. It's a sick burn, Jane.
But it also has a little bit of anchor in reality because of all her letters that got burned because she was so harsh, Jane.
Yes,
so sick burn Jane like works.
Harsh Jane.
Yeah. I think
She was so harsh that it was a sick burn.
This is growth for us. We've made a decision on a creative title and like it's fucking on brand. Fuck yeah, I'm excited
And
about
very much in the spirit of things, rather than choosing a day that we are officially transitioning, I just said it.
We just didn't.
It's
Who
happening.
cares?
It's happening now. So, just get used to it and at some point find Sick Burn Jane on Spotify.
Not yet.
Not yet. Soon.
And that's happening because we'll give you a really long lead on this, but basically eventually we're going to split things off so that the people who want to listen to our hot Outlander content, but don't give a fuck about Jane Austen, will be able to just chill on this feed and whatever your favorite podcast provider is and not have to go, oh man, another Emma.
You know what? I can see that being a real thing, though.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
there are some beloved friends of the show who are just not listening at all.
Yeah.
So that's fine. That's totally fine.
That's fine. It's
I mean,
2 different things.
You're
We had to
disloyal
pivot.
cunts, but it's fine. Just kidding. Just kidding.
We
JK.
had to pivot during the pandemic because there was no Outlander. So I know why we did it, but I also understand the necessity of splitting it off.
Yeah.
And this is maybe tentatively sort of a first step in figuring out like what is the Julie and Allison and Janine show? Is it a lot of different shows? Maybe. Anyway, that's Podlander, and this is Podlander presents Sick Burn Jane.
We're growing. I love it.
Growth.
Yay!
It's that Natasha Rothwell Insecure gif.
Yeah.
Growth. Jasper, is he hiding
Now
directly behind
He's
you?
just chilling.
Just right behind me.
He's such a handsome boy.
He is.
I threw out all my toys to like get him to do stuff. So now he's just there. If I move, he'll go "Whoo!" and then dart off.
Speaking of very handsome boys who have outsized emotional reactions but somehow remain strangely neutral, we're talking today about Joe Wright's Pride and Prejudice.
That was a great transition.
Thank
Nice
you.
segue.
I did just compare your cat to Matthew Macfadyen, so you're welcome.
Fucking cheers to that.
I'm stoked about this because this is, as you may know, the beginning of a little bit long series of, we don't know how many yet, of episodes about the other big PP. And there are lots of PPs, but if you were going to pick two, if there were two definitive PPs, they are AEBBC Nemesis PP. And the one that we're just calling Keira. And Keira. So this marks the beginning of our journey with Keira. And an interesting thing in this situation is that I've seen it, and Janine has seen it, but Julie has not seen it.
Nope.
So in the spirit of Julie's actual favorite podcast,
That's bullshit.
of Julie's favorite child, we're going to do like a light Maria Solved adjacent style situation, like when we asked Janine to describe Pride and Prejudice to us. But in this case, Julie's not going to describe Pride and Prejudice, the story, to us because we already know the story. Maybe she'll dip into some variations on the plot. I don't know. But we've got some questions that we're going to ask her to get her to give us a picture of what this movie that everybody in the world except for her has seen might be like. Julie, do you want to tell the folks while we have their attention about Maria Solved?
Oh, sure. For those of you who've never checked it out, a couple of years ago, I started a kind of just side hobby podcast called Maria Solved. And on that one, we find people who have never seen famous movies, and we make them tell us what they think the movie is as if they're an expert in the movie. And the results are hilarious. You can find it on Apple Podcasts. You can find it anywhere. Just Maria Solved.
From How Do You Solve a Problem Like Maria, a movie.
That's how it all started, yeah. Neil, to this day, has never seen The Sound of Music. And we consider that a problem like Maria that needed to be solved.
It's a really good name. So, without further ado,
Yeah.
Julie,
Yeah.
tell us about your very fond memories of Joe Wright's Pride and Prejudice. I've got questions, but I just want to know where you want to start.
Okay. Well, I mean, as you said, it's clear I know the plot of the actual source material. So I've decided to just go in a completely different direction.
Okay.
Based on my emotional response and like what the movie stills of Joe Wright's Pride and Prejudice I've seen make me think of.
Okay.
So do you just want me to talk about...
Let's start with this.
Yeah.
We know that Keira is in the cast.
Yeah.
How do you solve a problem like the world's inexplicable hatred toward Keira Knightley, a very fine actress who happens to just look a little bit like Natalie Portman?
It's the same thing that happened to Anne Hathaway.
Yes. And
People hate women.
Cameron
That's
Diaz,
it.
yeah. Misogyny.
Yeah.
We will be doing a whole episode about that because...
It's bullshit.
Hashtag protect Keira Knightley. She
It's stupid.
didn't do anything to anybody
didn't do-
except for
she-
look really hot in a couple of movies.
She didn't do anything wrong except be good enough at her job to have people pay her to do it.
Yes.
So fuck
And
off.
and I'm sorry, if you've never seen Atonement, have you really lived? I'm not sure.
That movie is very good.
It is extremely hot.
Yeah.
Isn't that the one with the hot sex scene in the library?
In the library in the
Yes.
green dress. Yes.
And then the like exchanges via letters and
Yep.
stuff. Oh.
Shit.
Hot shit.
Besides my friend and yours, Keira Knightley, who else is in this movie? Tell me first about the Bennett parents. Who plays our Bennett parents? And if you really know, please tell me. But if you
No.
don't,
I have absolutely no idea. The only two people that I know for certain are in this movie are Keira Knightley as Lizzie Bennet and Matthew Macfadyen as Darcy. That is
Yes.
it.
that's correct.
Let's go ahead and cast my hook into the pond on point
Yeah.
about who are the Bennett family. So I need a Mrs. Bennett, a Mr. Bennett, a Jane, a Mary, a Lydia. I don't really need a kitty. It's been proven.
You do actually need a kitty. In this
Oh, that's
adaptation,
right.
you do need a kitty.
That's right. You told me I was going to be surprised about the use of kitty in this one. Okay, cool.
About the casting of Kitty, not so much the use, the casting.
Kitty erasure continues.
No, not in this one. Joe Wright, he does not fuck around with Kitty Bennett. Kitty Bennett gets her due.
All right, excellent. That's That's good to me. That's a clue. So if we're going back to the mid 90s, which is when this one came out, right? Or 2000s?
2000s.
No, it's definitely the mid 90s.
No, yeah,
Keira
it's
Knightley
definitely-
was like 7 years old.
No, you're right.
Mid-90s, mid-90s.
The other tentpole came out in the mid 90s.
1976.
It was right after The Professional. That's when
Well,
this came out.
if I'm going to do it like Maria solved,
That's Natalie Portman.
I know. That's why I said that.
Oh, good. Woo. Okay, Janine is killing it. Sorry. Go ahead.
if I'm going to
Janine.
do it like Maria solved, I can call any decade. It doesn't matter.
Great. I know.
So let's see. Mr. Bennett is played by J.K. Simmons.
Great.
I think that's a solid choice. You got
Yeah.
kind of a wry,
Correct.
quiet delivery.
Yeah.
Mrs. Bennett is played by Annette Bening.
Okay.
Yeah.
She will marry this doctor today. She will
Yes.
marry this doctor today.
In her chef. Jane Bennett is played by, I don't know, some actress from the 2000s. Keira Knightley's already taken. She's Lizzie. So let's go with Alicia Silverstone.
Great. Alicia Silverstone as Jane. Wonderful.
Totally.
It's one of her best performances.
Alicia Silverstone is Jane. Keira Knightley is Lizzie. Mary. Janine Garofalo. I know that that's the wrong age, but it's the right vibe.
My soul just left my body.
The sultry tones of Janine Garofalo.
Lydia has to be a little firecracker. So if this was the mid 2000s, I'm going to go with like baby Florence Pugh. Like maybe she's 12. But Florence Pugh reads as like maybe 16 when she was 12. So Florence Pugh is our Lydia. And then Kitty. I don't know. Who's someone fun from the 90s? Thousands, 2000s, whenever.
This is such a. I love the.
It's a lot
chronology
of
this.
casting. The Bennett family is difficult. It's a lot of casting. There's a lot of women in it.
Yeah.
And, I mean, based on general casting calls and shit, you know there's only 2 viable women in Hollywood at a time. So where do you get the other 6? I don't know, Kitty. I don't know. Kitty is... I wish I had somebody's name that was Kitty. I wish I remembered the name of the woman that played Kitty on that 70s show, because that would be fucking hilarious, because she's like 80 years old now.
I don't know her name either, but that's.
Oh
who
my
I kept
God, Mila
thinking about.
Kunis. Mila Kunis is Kitty. There we go.
Yeah, there you go. That is
Done.
exactly who it is.
Okay, so we've got our Bennett family cast.
Yeah.
What's the next question?
Tell me about this version of Netherfield. What's it look like? What's the vibe?
Based on the stills that I've seen and
Not-
my
sorry,
I'm sorry, my
not
general
Netherfield.
expertise.
Not Netherfield.
Longbourn.
Longbourn. I have jumped ahead. Longbourn. Correct.
My feeling is that in general, this movie is, in order to make it feel more quote unquote modern, they made it a little more quote unquote emo. So I'm going to say that the color palette, generally speaking, is much more muted than the A&E, BBC, P&P, Nemesis. So grays, blues, browns. There's rain. It feels a little bit more Wuthering Heights in my mind. So, yeah, it looks like that. It's like it is today outside in Chicago. Kind of chilly, but not really, and just gray.
Okay. All
Okay.
right.
Yeah.
Let's talk about our visitors to town now. Talk to me about the Bingley family.
Yes, we've got the hot young money coming into town, and we've got Mr. Bingley, who is going to take Netherfield Hall at last. And he is played by Justin Timberlake. And then his sister, Caroline Bingley, who's kind of a grasper and climber and is not really excited about this possible move to the country, is played by... I don't know. There were only 3 viable women in Hollywood.
In the 1960s.
Yeah, in
Yes.
the 60s. Yeah.
Oh, good. She's played by Twiggy.
Great. And what about our sort of other new arrival in town, Mr. Wickham?
Ooh, Mr. Wickham. He's kind of mysterious but hot, but not really mysterious because he wants to tell you everything. So he is played by Sam Rockwell.
Okay, so just to clarify, our love interests in this story, if we exclude Keira and Matthew, are Alicia Silverstone with Justin Timberlake.
Yeah.
And Florence Pugh with who the fuck did you just say?
Sam Rockwell.
Sam Rockwell.
Sam Rockwell. He was a force in this movie, I gotta tell you.
Yeah, it was really weird. It was like he was riding into Netherfield, and as he rode in, there were 3 billboards behind him. And it says, Netherfield Park still empty. How come, Chief Willoughby? That was the 3 billboards outside Ebbings, Missouri joke. I'm trying to make it 2000. Nope, I don't ever want it to be 2017 again by science nor magic. Anyway, Patty. So, what about our ongoing residents of Meryton and its surrounding environs? Miss Charlotte Lucas. Who's our Miss Charlotte Lucas?
God damn it! I should have just fucking come up with I should have written all the names of all the actresses from the last 40 years and put them in a hat so I could just fucking draw them right now.
It's like that episode of Billy on the Street.
Yeah.
For $50, name a woman.
Yeah, that's how it feels. So Charlotte Lucas, if Keira Knightley is our Lizzie, we need somebody who is like, could be their best friend. Scarlett Johansson. Let's make Charlotte Lucas hot.
Yeah. Yeah.
A woman after my own heart.
Yeah.
Great. Okay. I think that we can, for now, we can leave it there. Because, our first act is all of our Netherfield and Longbourn and Meryton shenanigans. So in this first act, there are a couple of really famous scenes. And Joe Wright makes some very interesting choices with these scenes. So let's start with the dance, the big ball at Netherfield. The big one, the one where they actually dance and where the whole family makes a big spectacle of themselves.
Okay.
I can't quite remember. What is the big artistic choice that Joe Wright makes in that scene that makes it so memorable?
He uses modern music.
Great. I can't remember what song it is. Do you?
Yeah.
The song that they dance to is Let's Get It Started by Black Eyed Peas.
Great.
And the song that Mary tries to plink out on the piano is Criminal by Fiona Apple.
Yeah.
But it was all with harpsichord, which was a really cool choice.
Yeah.
Right?
The music is modern, but the instruments are historical.
You know what I really loved about the Black Eyed Peas choice is it's a lot like the Jeannie Simpson Wishbone choreography, because people just go, let's get it started, bow. Let's get it started, step backwards. Let's get it started, bow.
Bow.
Let's get it started, step backwards. Let's get it started. Come on. Yep. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Man.
and then Mrs. Bennett does that cover of Fergalicious. It's so good.
Yeah.
No, I'm sorry. Let me correct you. It's not Fergalicious. It's My Humps.
Oh, of course. Duh. Ugh, what a fool I. Okay, so that's a really good one. What about, our other visitor to town, Mr. Collins. Who's our Mr. Collins?
Oh, yeah. Mr. Collins comes blowing in, trying to pick out his wife, and then he ends up with Scarlett Johansson. So we know who this is. It's not actually Colin Jost. It's not actually Colin Jost, even though that's a hilarious joke.
That is.
You know what? There's worse casting.
It's actually Jonah Hill.
Okay.
Oh.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
And he proposes, and it's incredibly awkward, as you might guess. And there's a lot of that, like, wah, Jonah Hill energy. And then he gets nominated for an Oscar, of course. So that's all really important. But the scene where Mrs. Bennett asks Mr. Bennett to tell Lizzie to pull her head out of her ass and marry Jonah Hill, that's another really famous scene from this movie. But I don't remember where it takes place. I know it's different from in the book. I know it's not in his library, but I can't remember where it happens. Julie, do you remember where it happens?
So Lizzie slash Keira has just stomped on the heart of Jonah slash Mr. Collins. And Mrs. Bennett slash we're going to sell this house today is really pissed. And she grabs Lizzie and drags her out into the garden. And J.K. Simmons, a.k.a. Dad, a.k.a. Above It All, is on a tire swing. Just spinning. Just spinning in a circle because his life is like, he's got to get out of that house, but he can't be seen to run away. And so he just spends a lot of time on the tire swing, just spinning one way and then letting himself unspin slowly.
Yeah.
So does it sound sort of like this? God, I hope this works. Lizzie, your mother will never marry you again or talk to you again if you marry Mr. Collins. And I will never speak to you again if you do.
Yes, it sounds exactly like that.
Great.
Yeah.
And he never really looks at anyone, ever.
And this was a really strong choice because tires were, I mean, there's a reason why they didn't have a lot of money. He spent it on that tire swing.
It was very important to him to have that space to himself.
It's more like a wheel swing.
Yeah, let's call it a wheel swing.
Like a carriage wheel, but then he put a little poof in the middle of it for him to sit on.
Yes!
Like a bird cage.
Yes, without the cage. It's symbolic because he thinks he's trapped, but he's not. It's a prison of his own making in his mind.
Uh-huh.
It was a very deep artistic choice. Mm-hmm. That I'm told J.K. Simmons had a part of, asking for that as well.
Yeah.
He was a part of that process.
Deep understanding of Mr. Bennett's interior life.
Yeah, there's a reason he won, Oscars later in his life. Come on, guy's a good artist.
He knows what he's doing, and the man knows his business.
Yeah.
All right, so the things that we all know happen, they happen. Jane has a really her performance is so beautiful when she finds out that Bingley has left. Is there anything about that performance that you remember specifically, Julie, that Alicia Silverstone performance that really resonated with you?
Yeah, it was the one tear moment.
Okay.
It was what I call the Demi Moore moment when she read the letter and looked up and you could see all the liquid balancing on her lower lids and then one fat, juicy tear just ran down her left cheek.
It's good. It's really good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a lot like that moment in Clueless when the fountain springs up behind her, but in reverse.
Yes.
One tear as opposed to a whole fountain.
Mm-hmm.
Great. So once Jane is done crying, boo-hoo-hoo, Jane.
Get over it, Jane.
There's a little dust-up, a little altercation with Lydia, because there's a slightly different vibe to Lydia in this adaptation than there are in others. What's the deal with Lydia here? What's her vibe? I can't really remember.
Her vibe in this one is that she's literally a child. Like, she is a girl, and there is no question as to whether or not she would be old enough to be married. Like, none. Zero. Even in the style of the day, she is like 11 or 12, and it's weird.
So it's an Amy March situation.
Yes, and gross. And I think that Joe Wright was trying to make a point.
He's very political. He's a very political filmmaker. Great. So once Lizzie decides she's going to go visit Scarlett, who with her bee-stung lips and her husky voice is just wasting away in the parsonage.
Loving life, though.
Loving her life. Just
She's
waiting
got a
for him
place
to
to
trip
be.
into the pond and drown.
Mm-hmm.
Lizzie goes to visit her. And what's that? What's that journey like? Hi, Chespy.
It's a long carriage ride, right? It's like 2 days. She says it to Lady Catherine at some point. Is it 2 or 3 days to get between
It's a hike.
Longbourn? Yeah, it's a long time. I'm gonna say it was an unpleasant journey because back then any kind of travel, frankly, would have been unpleasant. So a really jostly carriage ride. Maybe she ate some oysters that weren't real good somewhere where she stopped at some inn. She's got the runs. She's dehydrated. It's fucking terrible. And
This is why I hate it when people are so mean to Keira Knightley, because you don't know how she suffers for her art. She ate those oysters in reality.
Oh, God, the dedication.
some people, their method, and it's just like, here, let me give you a used condom because I'm an asshole. But for some people, they're just like, if you'll excuse me, I'm suffering from my art. I need to go take a monster of a shit right now. Mm-hmm. My butt needs to puke.
I could be in there for like 3 days.
Sorry to slow filming down.
Yeah, sorry, but this
business.
is really important.
I hope you got that
look
take, because we're only doing one.
Yeah.
All right. So she gets there. First of all, now we meet another formidable character. Who plays Lady Catherine in this movie?
Mid-2000s, very clearly. B. Arthur.
she's definitely dead. When did B. Arthur die? Maybe I'm wrong. When did B. Arthur die?
She didn't die until like 2009.
B. Arthur death. B. Arthur died. Yes, 2009. You are correct.
Yeah,
I know.
This was,
Yeah, you
this
know
was
what?
one of her.
How dare I come for Julie on Golden Girls Network?
She died the same year that Michael Jackson died, and the only reason why I have it burned in my head was because of our camping trip that year. So,
Well, this was one of her last like major performances.
and major
Yes.
it was. So many takes to the camera. Nobody knew that Lady Catherine could really bring like almost a strange vaudeville vibe to the proceedings. It's one of my favorite performances.
My favorite line reading of hers is when she's talking to Lizzie about how she shares her opinion very forthrightly for someone so young. Pray tell, what is your age? Can you give us that line reading, Julie? Because I feel like your B. Arthur impression is better than mine.
Well, that's very charitable of you because I don't actually have one. But I have been watching a lot of Golden Girls recently, so let's see what I can do here.
Recently, she says, as though it's not a mainstay in the Starbird household.
Neil and I started over again at the beginning. Okay, so actually this won't really be B. Arthur. This will be B. Arthur through Dorothy's Bornak because that's really all I can do. So let's see. You speak your mind forthrightly for someone so young. Pray tell, what is your age?
With a little eyebrow action.
And then this to the camera.
It's an audio medium, but it was a good look.
You knew what I meant. Everybody felt it.
I hope
It was a
everybody
look away,
felt it.
look back,
Yeah.
look up,
God damn it, I did it again.
Yep.
Hold
and,
on.
And a scrunchy eyebrow.
Which is Dorothy's Bornak
There you
in
go.
a nutshell.
Great. So the most famous scene of her. Oh, did you want to cast Colonel Fitzwilliam, or do we want to say fuck Colonel Fitzwilliam as
Fuck
everyone
him.
does?
I don't
Great.
give a shit about him. He's trash anyway.
He's played by Flo from the insurance commercials.
Glad she's making more money.
Yeah, she's set for life. Good for her.
Has been for a long time.
We were talking about her the other day. Tom, who are we talking with? Oh God, I pulled my
This
fucking
is the
cord out
third
again.
time and
Who
watching.
are we talking about that
We
with?
need to get her a set
Yeah,
that
I
doesn't
know,
do
right?
that.
Flo from Progressive.
We were talking with each other.
Huh?
It was just us.
No, there was somebody else.
No, it was just us.
It was just us. Pandemic life, baby. We looked it up, and Tom was like, "I bet she was a groundling," and I was like, "I'll check her Wikipedia."
Yeah,
she was a groundling.
She was.
Yeah.
I remember when I was living in LA, I went to an improv performance, which she showed up at, and this was like 3 years into her commercial gig, and it was a very big deal that Flo was there because she was like alumni, and she made it, and she had this gig, and now we're
Wow.
13 years later.
I'm proud of her,
she
man.
made it
She
work.
did it.
and
She
she's
did
in
it.
she's in the Mad Men pilot.
Yep.
Come on,
Yep.
that's two
That
big
is a
things.
filmography. Yeah.
Anyway, so after Keira is done strolling through the countryside, learning some difficult truths from Flo from Progressive, she goes back to the parsonage, and the most famous scene, one of the two most famous scenes in this movie happens, and it is obviously the bad proposal, the pronosal, the no-prosal,
Proposal?
no,
The proposal.
the proposal, the faux.
The
Proposal?
refusal? Because you're refusing the proposal?
No, it's a faux proposal because he's not really actually proposing. He's just negging her.
The oh hell nosel.
Ah, yes, girl. That's the one.
So the
That's
oh
the
hell
one.
nosel happens. this is a scene that's burned on the inside of my brain, but I want to know how you remember it, Julie. Talk to me about this proposal scene.
They're outside and it's piss pouring rain. That's it.
Okay. All right.
They're under a big tree. It's kind of got some Wuthering Heights vibes. Like, they definitely are feral children that grew up together and like to fuck each other, but also hate each other. Like, that's what it feels like.
Like they're feral children?
Like Wuthering Heights.
Oh, like Wuthering Heights, of
Yeah.
course.
Like, it feels like they were raised together and fucked all the time. And then realized that they truly kind of hate each other, but still need each other.
Yeah.
Like, it's like that.
There's
It's that
a lot
vibe.
There's a lot of that energy, a lot of like Bronte energy
Right.
up in this gig.
Yes.
Which is why they...
It's out on the moors, baby.
It's why they keep Mariah Lucas locked in the attic.
Yes. Let's mix up our Bronte sisters. Fucking, there's a bitch in the attic.
Yep.
She's setting fire to shit. And then we got these feral children running around out here fucking each other from the time they're 12, but they really kind of hate each other.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, this Pride and Prejudice is very Bronte-fied.
Yes. And really, the thing that we learn at the end of it, this I know that this is not written by a Bronte sister, but you can't take this joke away from me, is that we learn that the monster is really Lizzie Bennet. Right? She's the Pride and the Prejudice, and
The monster.
her creation is not a monster. It's the mad scientist. This is a Frankenstein reference. It's the mad
yes.
scientist. That is the. I'm done. So great raining. That's a. I feel like maybe you're remembering this scene incorrectly, Julie.
There was mud everywhere.
Yeah.
And they were like slipping and sliding. I don't know.
Did you read that
It was-
thing? Did you read that thing about the slip and slide reality show getting shut down because of a diarrhea outbreak?
I'm not
Not
surprised.
surprised at all. No.
No.
That's not The Onion. That's really
Well,
that really
Yeah,
happened.
and you know what? I'm glad you brought that up because that's kind of what the oh hell nozzle scene looks like. It's
Shit?
like slip and slide plus
Yeah.
diarrhea.
It overall just felt very wet and dirty.
Yeah, and gross. And gross.
Cool, guys. All right. So Lizzie GTFOs.
Deuces. Get it?
This is a very fecal adaptation of Pride and Prejudice.
It was the aughts, man. That was a weird time.
It was. It's like I say, the great movie making of the 1960s is defined by its commitment to Alicia Silverstone and fecal matter.
Yes.
Great. Okay, so Lizzie, she goes back home, and she's only got one thing to look forward to, and it's her trip to the lakes, it's a lovely little tour. Tell me some of the things about her trip to the lakes with her dear aunt and Uncle Gardner, and maybe you could remember who it is that plays her Aunt Gardner specifically, because I know it's a cast member from Downton Abbey, but I can't remember which one.
I will say that her aunt is played by Maggie Smith, and her the woman's husband, uncle, is played by let's rob another P&P, Hugh Laurie.
Great.
It was a May December romance, but they really got it on for many years. So it's a true love match, and that's why Lizzie likes to spend time with them, because they are smart, funny, really in love, respect each other as a couple. Hugh Laurie and Dame Maggie Smith.
Great.
So they're gonna go to the lakes. Great. Guess what happens? Tornado. Lakes are fucked. They can't go to the lake, and instead they end up going to Derbyshire.
Derbyshire.
Guess what's in Derbyshire? Pemberley!
All right. So this is arguably the most famous of the cinema Pemberleys, which may come as a shock because obviously the A&E BB PPC nemesis is a very famous Pemberley.
That's my Pemberley.
But this one also very famous. Can you tell me any of its defining features?
Flying buttresses,
Yeah, so many.
Lots of those.
stained glass
Yeah.
windows, immaculate grounds, at least 3 ponds, an orchard, a paddock for beautiful horse flesh, and a really nice carriage house where Darcy likes to go sleep sometimes because he likes to get out of the big manor every once in a while and just let loose.
Yeah, by allowing himself to have facial expressions.
Yes.
Yeah, so he's really
But he can only do that
Yeah.
in the carriage house.
getting
Yeah.
wild.
Near
just
all those-
wild. Sowing his
All
wild
those
oats.
horse troughs where there's a reflection where you can work on it. Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, very wise. The other most famous moment in this movie, outside of the first, the Oh Hell Nozzle, is also in this little visit to Pemberley. Do you happen to remember what that moment is?
I'm sure it's the hand flex. This is something I should have said earlier. I'm aware that Matthew Macfadyen has some kind of weird hand flex thing where it's like, I wish I could possess you, but I can't. Like, I get it. So I'm going to say the hand flex, and I'm going to say it's because somebody tried to walk into his carriage house, and he is not about it.
So
But then he
goes,
has to release.
Stop from coming into my carriage house with his hand flex.
This is my private space. Yeah.
Hand
Hand flex.
It was
Hand
it was a
flex.
lot of like talk to the hand stuff, you know? It was very
Yes. Right in Lizzie's face.
Yeah.
How rude. And it kind of felt out of the period.
well, but I think part of the challenges of such a modern contemporary take on a PP, you know? Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think part of it too was as a tribute to Alicia Silverstone. you
True.
know?
Duh.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like it definitely they wanted some of that 90s energy. It's just like when Jane gets dressed every morning, she calls her lady's maid / maid of all work because the Bennetts aren't rich. She comes hustling in and then pulls out her like big metal stick thingy and opens a door and there's a rotating closet and Jane flips through a notepad to find which element of her, like which fichu and which chef and which all of those things she wants, and then they play like a really catchy song underneath, David Bowie song, and then she gets dressed in the like fashion.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's lots of Alicia Silverstone Easter eggs.
Janine doesn't know what that is, and that's awesome.
I got the reference to that scene in
You've never seen it,
Clueless?
have you? Oh, you've never read it. Never mind.
oh yeah.
Anyway, Patty.
Emma?
You've seen,
Yeah, Emma.
You've
I've seen Clueless. I haven't read Emma. Like I
Okay.
got a first chapter in and then I put it down and then came back and I was like, oh fuck, I'm confused. I forgot what happened. So yeah, that's why I need this experience together with you guys. You guys help with it. Yeah.
It's gonna be good. It's gonna be good. Okay, great. So the next sort of like big event is Lydia running off with Wickham.
Florence Pugh as an 11-year-old with like Sam Rockwell as a like 32-year-old. It's going to be like that.
So how does that change the dynamic of the movie?
Well, it really like bumps up the reality of what that situation was and what Wickham is. And Sam Rockwell's really good at that like psychopath part. So he's a predator and very creepy.
I can't remember. Did he win an Oscar for being an asshole in this movie too? I can't remember.
He's won at least one Oscar for being an asshole and probably should have won an Emmy if he didn't for being an asshole in Fosse Verdon.
Yeah, he was a really good asshole in Fosse.
He's like excellent asshole.
Yeah. Although really, that's the Michelle Williams show.
Oh, duh. Please. If I could give her an Oscar for a television performance, I would have.
I would give her a Tony Award for
Yes!
just
Yes.
just
Yes.
the gesture
That's
where
appropriate.
she wipes her face
Ugh.
and her. Yeah,
Oh my God, it's so good.
it's so good.
God, that show was so depressing.
Yes, but good.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so great. So it's very serious.
Yes.
Extremely serious.
It's a crime.
Yeah.
Like this time, we cannot shy away from the fact that this is actually a crime.
Does that affect the plot at all in the last act of the movie? I can't remember if there are any sort of adaptation changes.
No, it shakes out the same. It's just more of a understanding and like highlighting of the fact of how shitty this is.
Okay. All right. And one more question. Is Wickham secretly the leader of a band of undead zombies?
Sam Rockwell, not putting it past him.
Okay.
We don't actually see that, but there's something behind those eyes. It's a little shifty.
You just
You just
know.
never know.
Okay.
Like,
Great.
There's a lot of like closing of doors when he comes into a room. He's like, "Don't go in there, please." By the way, it's a lot of that
yes.
vibe.
And flies kind
Follow
of
him around.
follow him around
Yeah.
like Pigpen. So
Yeah.
maybe.
All right. So then blah, blah, blah. Poor Lydia. Blah, blah, blah. Jane and Bingley. Blah, 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 blah. Then we get Lady Catherine again.
Yeah.
Talk to me about that scene, because there's a very specific energy to this scene that's very distinctive from BBC PPAE Nemesis.
This time it takes place over full tea service, and it's beautiful, and there's porcelain and tea and little cakes and cute everywhere, and it's them trying to best each other without direct confrontation. It's a little bit more traditional, like ladies at tea shading each other, and it's a delight.
Great. There's one more thing that I feel like it would be remiss if we did not touch on it, which is that this is thought of often as being the sexy Pride and Prejudice, not least of which because when we see Lizzie and Darcy happily ensconced at Pemberley with all of its buttresses and its many ponds and its carriage house, it famously shows them enjoying their property in an unexpected way. So where does
Is this where they're fucking each other up against the window and he's looking out over all he surveys? I mean, we've talked about this before. That's
Yes.
going to be
Yeah.
my guess. It's going to be a literal up against a window somewhere. There's a servant at the end of the hall that has to do a full turnaround, so they've got their back to them. But it's skirts up, dick in, looking out the window. This is my Pemberley.
But hold on, Julie. Is it his Pemberley or is it their Pemberley? Which way is she facing? I don't remember.
I think they do a switch around, right? Because they respect each other.
Are you
And-
saying that there's pegging in this movie?
No, not like that. Well, you know what?
Yeah.
Fuck it. Yes.
This is a very progressive movie.
Yes.
It's
there is.
the second hand flicks is like, whoa!
Yes, there is. And she just flips him around, pushes his face into the window so that they both can look out over their Pemberley, and then she just rogers his ass.
And you hear his face going, squirrel, squirrel, squirrel.
Yes! Because guess what? It's humid, kind of cold, and rainy out there on the moors.
It really is. It really is. And they're feral children
Yes.
doing what they do.
Yep.
Great.
Wow. Yeah.
Well,
You know what? I have to say this. So coming into this, I was like, I know the fucking plot of Pride and Prejudice. It's clear. Like, how am I going to do this? So I think this was better just asking the direct questions. Like, this was helpful. I know this is not how it goes, everybody. It's very clear, please.
I think people get that it's a joke.
Yeah.
But I am curious if now we've reached the wait. What's the closing needle drop? What's the very last song that plays?
Cry Me a River by Justin Timberlake. Because he had to get worked in. He had to get a song in there
Yeah.
in order to
He was a
fight
stunt
Bingley.
cast, so like they had to like add that
Yeah.
in just a little bit.
So
It's at their wedding. It's at their joint wedding, and Justin Timberlake is dressed like a Hummel figurine that he truly is, from top to bottom in like white and light dove gray. He's got a top hat, which is incorrect for the time, but whatever. He can dance. I'll never forgive him for what he did to Britney.
and he looks at Caroline and points at her sitting in the chapel and goes, "You don't have to say what you did. I already know. I found out from him." And then points at Darcy. Great. Good.
Yes.
Well, I think this went really well. End of movie. So I'm very curious about some of the choices you made casting-wise, because obviously you were joking, and none of them are correct. But some of them are closer to correct than you might think.
Well, like J.K. Simmons has a very Mr. Bennett energy. Like that was just one that naturally came to me. And Annette Bening also weirdly has a Mrs. Bennett energy. So those were easy. It was much harder when I was having to parse out women in their like 20s from the 2000s, because I wasn't really watching a lot of movies. I don't know. But yeah, I kind of just went based on energy or if it would be weird.
I think Garofalo in that.
Well, it was good. It was good casting. Some of it, depending on what year this took place, Florence Pugh might have not been born. She's very young.
Yeah, she could have been born in like the year 2000.
Alexa, how old was Florence Pugh in 2005? She was 9.
I'm not that far away, man. I said 11 or 12. So
Okay. Here's the thing I would like to do. I want you to remain mostly unspoiled because I want the joy of watching you see who is in this cast. But I also want to spoil at least one for you. And there are options.
do I get to pick which one is spoiled?
Yes, but I'm going to narrow
Okay.
from several.
Okay.
So, Mr. or Mrs. Bennett, Jane or Kitty, or let's do those. Pick one of those 4.
Well,
Either of the Bennett parents or Jane or Kitty.
I know that you've spoken about the casting of Kitty in this one before, but because Kitty is kind of a
I feel like maybe that one should be a surprise. I'm rescinding it.
that one doesn't like frankly I just don't care. It'll be exciting to see a fun person playing Kitty, but knowing the plot, like she's not around a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So I will say, tell me who Mrs. Bennett is.
Brenda Blethyn.
Oh, perfect. Yes, that's great.
It's good, isn't
Yes.
it? She's very
Yes.
good.
I bet she's hilarious.
She's extremely funny. I'm a little surprised, to be honest, that you didn't, based on when you were thinking this was taking place, that you didn't get the person who plays Lady Catherine, which is the other one that I feel like might be worth spoiling.
Who is it?
Well, I want you to try to guess one more time, legitimately. Think 2005, which you were living in Portland then?
Yes, about to move to Chicago.
Okay. So, early 2000s, Lady Catherine de Bourgh. So, a couple of scenes, but like movie-dominating scenes. Who do you think would be playing her?
Man, I don't know.
It's Judi Dench, Julie.
Yeah.
Get it together.
Oh, well, you know what? Maggie Smith thanks me. Yeah.
No, you said Maggie Smith was Aunt Gardner.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
right.
this-
Sorry.
Who did
B.
you say
Arthur.
was playing Lady Catherine? Oh, right.
B. Arthur. That's right. B. Arthur is pretty good, though.
It is. I mean, that would be very funny.
All right, Dame Judi Dench. I bet she's amazing.
She's very good.
Clever little Judi Dench.
Clever.
Chubby little Judi Dench. Do you guys remember that when, what's his name? Come on, Gandalf.
Ian McKellen.
Ian McKellen?
Ian McKellen was on Saturday Night Live and he dressed up as Maggie Smith on, on Weekend Update. And it was all about Maggie Smith talking trash about Judi Dench. And it was amazing.
I didn't see that. I'll have to look that
I'll
up.
send you a link.
I'm still a little bit stuck on the idea of Colin Colin what's his face playing Mr. Collins.
Oh, it would be terrible.
Because ScarJo is Charlotte. That's very funny to me.
But Jonah Hill would be better at the
He's-
physical comedy, so that's why
I think he's a
picked
good
somebody
choice
else.
too. I think he would be a
I do
good
too.
like Collins.
Actually, right after I said his name, I thought, actually, you know who would be better at Mr. Collins? It would be
Yeah.
Michael Cera. But I stuck with
Yeah,
the Jonah
they
Hill.
their energy's obviously the same, and like they do have like ish.
No, Michael Cera has that weird, like, awkward thing, which could be really
Yeah.
funny, and like all the social mores that Mr. Collins always misses, like it goes right over his head. That part
Yeah.
would be funny.
The thing I love about Michael Cera, Michael Cera, another talented person who gets hate for absolutely no reason. No reason at all. He's very funny. As I think Michael Cera has like 2 primary modes, and they are somehow the same and fundamentally opposed. And one is I'm Michael Cera and you love and want to protect me, the George Michael Bluth mode.
Yes.
And the other is I'm Michael Cera and I'm Michael Cera and weird and awkward and a huge piece of shit, which is the
Scott Pilgrim version.
yeah, the end of the world, or the world set. No, it's the end of the world. The whatever, the apocalypse movie.
Yeah.
And I think they're both good versions.
Mm-hmm.
Scott Pilgrim rules. That's a good movie.
That's such a fun film.
You know who's good in that? Brandon Ruth, my beloved
He was
Brandon
quite
Ruth.
good.
I love him
Yeah.
so much. Whatever. Julie doesn't watch Legends of Tomorrow. She doesn't understand that we're in the Ruth-essence.
No.
But we're in the Rufusance.
Cool.
He's the very best. Great. What I want to know before we read our patrons, last question. Janine, if you were going to say like one thing that you remember about this movie, actually remember, that isn't the rain or the hand flex, because those are the obvious ones. What is a thing that you remember? Is there a costume? Is there a moment? Is there a scene? Is there a
fairly
performance?
certain this is the movie that I fell in love with Keira Knightley on. Fairly certain.
Nice. Not Pirates of the Caribbean, because she fucking killed
She's fun in that film, but
She
but
is.
no, this was the one where I was like, oh, hello.
All right.
All right.
Okay.
This is where we would do a smash cut to somewhere in London, some expensive apartment building, and there's a knock on a door, and Keira Knightley opens it, and Aaron's holding a sign that says, "Say it's Carol Singers," and then Keira Knightley gets out her cell
Calls the
phone
police.
and calls 9999.
God.
Deep cut London joke.
Yeah. Good. Great. Well, hey, that's a great way for us to kick off our Keira series.
Let's get it
our
done.
Keiries of the. No, we're just gonna stick with Oh Hell Knows Old.
Oh, hell knows old.
That's the linguistic innovation of the day.
Here's an actual question.
Yeah.
Are we doing a crowdcast to watch it, or are we watching it on our own? I'm fine either way. I just want to know.
I think it's hard to do the crowdcast with the movies because
They're long.
They're too long.
they're too long. But maybe we'll do like Act 1 on crowdcast. Regardless, I
Okay.
think we should watch together because I think we're funnier when we watch together.
Okay.
But you'll check the internet. Whatever. This will have already happened by the time you're hearing this episode. So,
Yes, for sure.
So never mind. Sorry you missed it, but you can go watch the replay on crowdcast.io.
Fucking time travel. It's weird, y'all.
You know what's funny is I re-listened when we were working on the application thingy. I was re-listening to the episode. We were telling jokes about time travel then.
Yeah.
That was a
you just
man
did
in a
right
bear
then?
suit.
Guess what you just did just then? You told another joke about time travel now.
I know. Yikes.
It was just then.
I feel like I want to restate one thing, though, just because it's been a while since we've all remembered this. I want you to remember that Outlander thought, you know what's too ridiculous? Jamie fighting an actual bear. So instead, let's have him fight a man in a bear suit and make it all about rape.
Instead of, the time travel that comes from touching a rock.
Instead of Claire taking a large fish and hitting
beating a
the bear
bear.
on the nose with the fish, they decided to go this other way. Those are human bites.
Oh, God. See, I'd forgotten it completely.
Well, I'm glad I reminded
Speaking
you.
of time travel.
So that's going to do it for us for this week. We're going to come back next week to talk about our Keira series here on Sick Burn, Jane. I almost forgot. We want to thank all of our patrons, but especially, no, God damn it, I skipped all the things. So you can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/podlendercast. You can find us on Twitter at podlendercast or at sickburnjane. You can find us on Instagram at podlendercast or at sickburnjane. You can find us on the internet and other places too, and you can find us at Patreon at patreon.com/podlendercast, where you can support the shows, plural. You can join the Slack, you can listen to bonus episodes, you can visit Janine's Corner, all of these really wonderful things. We want to thank all of our patrons who make it possible for us to do the show, but we especially want to thank the following wonderful folks, and it's a little different this week. Just Bree, Mallory Smith, Catspaw 156, Maddie Perkins, Snazinac, Lisa Briand, Julia Gulia, Kathleen Martini, Lauren Tennant, Kelsey Kemp, Madison Johnson, Emily Day, Betsy English, Caitlin Reddick, Ashley Teagues, Kristen Freckled Fury, Laura Colm, Amelia Bazell, Liz and Tinkerbell, Stella Welch, Chrissy Shively, Claire Feeney, Kayla Reagan, Rochelle Lefevre, Heather Robbins, Jerry Hurdle, Emily Carlson, Amy Gustafson, Rachel Townsend, Steph Peterson, Kelly Mazzella, Sean Telsall. Oh God, I breathed too hard. Kelly Mazzella, Chantel Salters, Mary the Falling Statue, Tara Lucchino, Viv Pickles, a.k.a. Laura, Mary of the Grapefruit, Jenna Pukowski, Ann Gibson, Ruth McCormick, Katie Kirshner, Carol Marlowe, Trish McCurry, Dr. J, Jen Leonard Drunklin, Kelly Bodden, Amanda Newton, and Kiki. Thank you so much for making it possible for us to do these shows.
Plurals.
Plurals.
We are extremely grateful because where else would you get to hear Julie talking about Matthew Macfadyen and Keira Knightley fucking about against a window and surveying all that they own?
All the light
hot.
touches.
Yep.
With
And all this strap-on touches. That's mine.
and you know what? I can't think of a better way to end. So
Bye.
Bye.